H. My wife snapped. I'm done being a wife. Deal with it. After months of distance and late-night team events, H. So I dealt with it with the prenup her own father made me sign. That's the short version. H. The one I told my buddy Danta later that night. The long version is how you watch a marriage die slow, H. And how a person you built a life with can look at you one morning and see nothing but an obstacle. My name is Wyatt, H, and I am 36 years old. I'd been married to Blair, who was 33 for 8 years. A. Those first 4 years were rock solid. We bought a split-level fixer upper in Riverside, built in the 1980s, H, and we poured every ounce of our spare time into it. We were a team. Weekends were spent covered in sheetrock dust. The H, learning to refinish hardwood from YouTube videos, laughing when we messed up the tiling in the bathroom. We cooked dinner almost every night. It was normal, good married people stuff. I am an industrial welder at a manufacturing plant. I've been there for 11 years. It's solid work, decent pay, and I'm union. Aish. I know steel and aluminum fabrication like I know the back of my hand. I can TIG weld stainless steel pipe in my sleep if I had to. Blair is a senior recruiter at a consulting firm downtown. She deals in strategy, big names, and 6-figure salaries. Itch. We occupied completely different worlds, but for a while they fit together seamlessly. She'd tell me about placing candidates for Fortune 500 companies. I'd tell her about the apprentice who nearly blew up the acetylene tanks that morning. We had our thing going. Around year 4, H, things started to shift. Blair got promoted to lead recruiter, and with the title came a crushing new schedule. More networking events, H. More late nights at downtown restaurants with colleagues. More obligatory travel, H. I picked up overtime welding custom projects on the weekends to handle the increased mortgage payments after our last big renovation. At first, I didn't worry. I figured we were both just grinding to get ahead, but the distance grew steadily, slow and insidious. Aish, like rust you don't notice until the pipe bursts. Dinner together went from nightly to occasional to me eating a frozen pizza alone at 10 o'clock at night. H. She would text that she was networking with clients or had an emergency call with the West Coast office. The H. Date nights I'd planned for weeks would get canceled at the last minute. I'd booked tickets to a concert she'd been talking about. Clear my work calendar, and then get a text 3 hours before showtime that she absolutely had to attend some critical work thing. H. I'd see it on her Instagram later that night, though her and 6 coworkers laughing at a rooftop restaurant downtown, drinks in hand. H. I tried to be the understanding husband. She had goals, ambition. I wasn't going to be the blue collar anchor that held her down. H. But it wasn't just the schedule. She changed. The way she looked at me changed. She used to smile when I came home covered in metal dust and welding flash burns. Now, she barely looked up. H. I'd walk through the door, drop my work bag, and get maybe a glance before her eyes went back to her phone. H. The real change accelerated when Tatiana showed up about 18 months ago. Tatiana worked at Blair's firm. H, a senior consultant with 3 divorces under her belt by the age of 45. She was always talking about female empowerment. not needing men and living your best life. She started coming over all the time, or they'd video chat for hours. H. I'd be in the garage working on a project, and I'd hear snippets through the window. H. You make more than him anyway. Or, Blue, collar guys have no drive. Or, you're wasting your potential in a dead-end marriage. Every time Blair hung out with Tatiana, H. She came back colder. She started saying things like, H. I need to prioritize myself, and I refuse to settle anymore. I didn't even know what she thought she was settling for. The H? I paid half the mortgage, did half the housework, maintained every piece of plumbing and electrical in that 1980s house. I tried everything to save us. I booked a lakeside cabin weekend. H. She canceled the morning we were supposed to leave for an urgent conference call. I suggested we try counseling. She said I was overthinking. I brought home her favorite Thai takeout. She'd eat it scrolling her phone. Nothing worked. H. Our intimate life went from regular to occasional to non-existent over 6 months. Then she moved into the spare bedroom. H. The house became a storage unit where we kept our stuff and occasionally ran into each other. I kept thinking it was temporary. H. That normal would come back. My older sister, Fiona, called around this time. She's 40, in pharmaceutical sales, H, and has the sharpest tongue in 3 counties. She'd always been skeptical of Blair. When I mentioned things were rough, H, she didn't hold back. Your wife's checked out, bro. Wake up. I told her she was being dramatic. Shh. She just laughed and said I'd apologize later. 7 months ago, I finally decided to address it. H. It had been 10 weeks since we'd been intimate. I waited until Saturday morning. She was in the kitchen scrolling her phone. I sat down across from her. We need to talk about what's happening with us, I said. She didn't even look up. H, what about it? I laid it out calmly. We're roommates who split expenses. You moved into the spare room months ago. H. We haven't been intimate in over 2 months. We barely talk anymore. I don't know what we're doing. She set her phone down. H. Her face was blank bored. That's what hurt the most. The absolute lack of emotion. I'm not sleeping with you anymore. Deal with it. I don't care either way. H. I'm done pretending to be some housewife for a guy who can't give me the life I deserve. The insult, the entitlement. H. The complete dismissal of my worth. It was all condensed into that one sentence. I was the guy who paid half the mortgage. H. Fixed everything, cooked, and maintained the house she broke or ignored. H. And I was just not good enough for the life she deserved. I looked at her. She seemed satisfied, like she'd won something I didn't know we were fighting over. All right, I said. I'll deal with it. She nodded, picked up her phone, and walked back to her room. She probably thought I'd just stay, pay half the bills, and keep out of her way. Shh. She had no clue what I meant by deal with it.
Not yet.
The moment I said,
All right, I'll deal with it.
my old life ended. H, and a plan for my new one began to form. Blair had walked back into the spare room, assuming her little power play was complete. H, that she had successfully negotiated the terms of her emotional freedom while keeping her comfortable security. She expected me to stay, paying the bills and keeping the house running like a compliant, silent fixture. She was wrong. That night, I called Dante, H, my best friend since we were 16. He's a heavy equipment operator, straightforward, and doesn't waste time on nonsense. I told him everything. I didn't hold back the humiliating details, the quiet decline, the late night pizza, and Blair's final, venomous ultimatum. He listened without judgment, letting the silence stretch when I needed it. H. Then, he said exactly what I needed to hear. Get out before you lose your mind. You can crash in my spare room. Don't waste another minute in that mausoleum. His words hit me with the force of a hydraulic punch. Sanctuary, H. I packed a duffel bag that night. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop, and my good welding tools. H. I avoided anything that felt like an emotional memento. I wasn't running, I was executing a strategic withdrawal. I left a note on the kitchen counter, short, functional, and devoid of emotion. You wanted space. Here it is. Don't contact me unless absolutely necessary. I left at 5 o'clock in the morning before the alarm went off in the spare room. Shh. The house felt cold and still, a tomb of lost years. I didn't look back. H. The first thing I did that morning was establish my financial independence. I opened a new personal bank account, rerouted my direct deposit, and then went to the joint account. I meticulously calculated my exact, documented share of the existing funds. I withdrew my portion, leaving Blair's exact half untouched, and documented everything. I made sure there was no gray area, nothing she could challenge easily later. Everything was by the book, clean and efficient, like a well-executed weld. Then I called the attorney recommended by Dante's brother. My appointment was scheduled for Thursday morning, just 3 days away. Dante's place was small, near the industrial park, but it was safe. He worked rotating shifts each, so I often had the place to myself. We sat on his worn couch in the evenings, ordered Chinese food, and talked about normal things. H. Work, cars, the upcoming season opener. The quiet stability was a balm. Blair texted a few times that first week. All business. H. Just like I was a former roommate. The mortgage is due. The water bill came. She seemed mildly surprised I left. But she didn't sound sad. She didn't ask me to come back. She didn't apologize for anything she'd said. She was merely inconvenienced. H. That confirmation hurt, but it also reinforced my resolve. My appointment with Carter, the divorce attorney, was Thursday morning. H. Dante came with me for support. Carter's office was on 4th Street, quiet and professional. H. I brought every financial document I could find, bank statements, mortgage papers, retirement accounts, and tax returns. H. I started explaining the emotional decline, the distance, and the final brutal confrontation. About 12 minutes in, H. Carter stopped me. Did you sign a prenuptial agreement? I nodded.
Yeah, I brought it.
H. Her dad insisted before the wedding. Blair's dad was an investment banker, the wealth management type. H. He was all about protecting the family assets. When we got engaged, he had insisted I sign a prenup. H. It seemed standard then. Keeping premarital assets separate, clear property division. I hadn't thought much about it. I wasn't marrying Blair for money, so I signed it without reading too deep. I figured it would never matter. I pulled the folder and handed the document over. Carter began reading. He was quiet for 6 minutes. Then he leaned back in his leather chair and smiled. Wyatt, there's an arrest infidelity clause in this prenup. I wasn't following. Meaning what? Meaning, if either party can be proven to have had an affair, Carter said, letting the words hang in the air. That person gets nothing from the joint assets and no spousal support. The air went still. I thought about the late nights. The distance, the way she rushed to check her phone. The 3 o'clock in the morning phone calls she claimed were West Coast placements. Everything snapped into agonizing clarity. She hadn't just emotionally checked out, she had checked out with someone else. Then I remembered something that made my blood run cold. We had an old tablet at home, stuck in a kitchen drawer, used for recipes years ago. When we set it up, we used our shared, joint cloud account. If she had been messaging someone on her phone, and if that forgotten tablet was still connected to the we, in the cloud, everything would have synced there. Carter caught my intense expression. Don't break any laws, Wyatt. Don't worry, I said, rising to my feet. I won't. I left his office with a plan. Blair had a 4-day work trip to Atlanta coming up. The house would be empty. I still had the key. The game had just changed from damage control to total victory. The prenup gave us the bullet. Now I just needed to find the smoking gun to fire it. That entire week dragged, heavy and slow, like wading through thick mud. I went to work, welded. Tried to focus on the heat and the metal. But my mind kept returning to the drawer in the kitchen. The forgotten tablet, and the sickening feeling that my pain was not accidental, but the calculated side effect of Blair's selfishness. I came back to Dante's apartment every evening. We'd pretend to watch basketball games. But I was just counting the hours until Wednesday night. Part of me, the old knave Wyatt, still hoped I wouldn't find anything. That the distance was just ambition, not betrayal. But the part that had watched her disconnect for 18 months, the part that knew what her smile looked like when it was pointed at her phone instead of me, knew better. Wednesday evening finally arrived. Blair texted that she was boarding her flight for Atlanta. I waited until 10 o'clock. Giving her time to settle in at the hotel and assuring the neighborhood was quiet, then drove to the house. The garage door still opened with my code, and the air inside was thick with the scent of expensive perfume. And the faint, metallic smell of the empty, expensive life we had been sharing. I walked directly to the kitchen. I found the old, thick tablet buried in the drawer beneath plastic utensils and mismatched tea towels. I took it into the garage, plugged it into the nearest outlet, and sat on the workbench, waiting. It took about 30 minutes to charge and sync. The small, glowing screen felt like a judge's verdict about to be handed down. When it finally powered up, the main messaging app, showed 312 unread messages. Most were spam, but there was one contact saved simply as Resish Ars Percept. My hands were steady as I opened the conversation. The first message, from R, was dated 7 months ago. Right around the time everything in our marriage had collapsed, it started normally enough. Work stuff. Great meeting today. Thanks for the recommendation. Then it shifted fast. flirtation, inside jokes. H. Mentions of meeting up after recruiting events that I had been told were mandatory team mixers. Then it got worse. H. The messages transitioned into explicit mentions of hotel rooms, specific dates and times, and, worst of all, complaints about me. H. One message ready. He's so checked out. We're basically just roommates at this point. Another. H. He doesn't even try anymore. That stung, twisting the knife. I remembered desperately trying to book that cabin weekend. H. Trying to talk to her, trying to bring home her favorite takeout. H. She was calling me checked out while coordinating hotel rooms with Raphael. He'll never find out. She had written. H. He's too focused on his job to notice anything. That one was a punch to the gut. The culmination of the condescension I had been hearing from Tayana. My honest, hard work was just a distraction to her. H. An excuse for her infidelity. The messages continued, detailing coordinating meetings, covering for each other. H. And a trip they took together to Phoenix that I had been told was a mandatory recruiting conference. H. She had even sent me pictures from that trip, posed in front of the convention center with a group of other recruiters. Turns out, H. She was with Raphael the whole time. I scrolled further and found photos. Pictures of them together at dimly lit restaurants. H. Hotel lounges, and what was obviously a hotel room somewhere that wasn't Phoenix. And then I saw the worst one. H. A picture she had taken in our guest room, the spare bedroom, after she had moved out of our shared master suite. H. The guy's name was Raphael. I recognized him from the few work functions I'd been dragged to. H. One of those senior consultant types who probably thought his suit made him interesting. Always in three-piece get-ups. H. Always had stories about landing major clients. Blair had frequently mentioned him. Raphael thinks we should restructure the team. Raphael suggested a new sourcing strategy. Raphael is really good at client relations. I sat there on the cold concrete floor of my garage, surrounded by my tools, H, and started taking screenshots. Every message, every photo, every hotel charge she had sent him from our joint account. 7 months of documented affair, all there in her own words and transactions. She was either too arrogant or too stupid to hide it. Aish. She had just left a clear, digital trail on our shared device, signed into our shared account, sitting in our shared house. H. I forwarded everything to Carter that night. Attached photos, messages, receipts, the whole thing. The file size was huge. He called me within 2 hours, clearly having taken the time to review the entire package. His voice was low and serious. Wyatt. Shh. This is bulletproof. Combined with the prenup and this evidence, she's walking away with basically nothing. Maybe her retirement account from before the marriage, and that's it. Are you sure you want to do this? Absolutely, I said. H. The conviction ringing clear in my voice. File everything. Fiona called right after I hung up with Carter. H. She had heard through a mutual friend that I was with a lawyer. About time, she said. Told you she was trash 6 months ago. H. This is going to be beautiful. I was calm. I was focused. The pain was still there, but it was now weaponized. H. Blair wanted me to deal with it. I was about to show her exactly how I dealt with a breach of contract. Blair returned from Atlanta. H. oblivious that the life she thought she was securing was already ash. She had one last meeting to pitch, and I was happy to listen. The next few days were agonizingly slow, knowing what was coming. I went through the motions at work, my helmet down. The intense blue, white light of the arc welder, the only thing I could truly focus on. The rest of the world felt muffled and distant. Dante kept asking if I was okay, and I told him I was great. I was past okay. I was operating with a cold. Surgical precision I hadn't known I possessed. Blair kept up her facade, too. She texted me about some bills. Asked if I could stop by Sunday morning to handle the utilities because, apparently, she couldn't figure out how to pay them without me. She had been a senior recruiter for years, handling million-dollar contracts, but couldn't navigate the power company's website. It was the perfect, final confirmation of what she saw me as a maintenance man. I drove over Sunday morning. The house was immaculate, smelling faintly of her expensive floral air freshener. She was waiting for me. She had dressed casually, but perfectly, in one of those outfits that probably cost more than my weekly paycheck. She gestured for me to sit at the kitchen table as if she were conducting a review meeting. I was genuinely curious where this was going. I sat and watched her, my face neutral. She launched into a prepared speech about how she had been thinking during her trip to Atlanta, which I knew was a 4-day affair with Raphael, that maybe we should change our marriage into something more modern and flexible. She actually used the word restructure. Like she was presenting a business plan to a potential client. We split all expenses equally. She began, ticking the points off on her manicured fingers. We keep entirely separate schedules. Basically, we function as roommates sharing a property. No expectations, no obligations, no pressure. She leaned forward. Her eyes bright with false enthusiasm. I'm not into traditional marriage anymore, Wyatt. But we don't need to blow up our entire lives. We keep the house, share expenses, and live independently. If you can adapt to that, we can make it work? She didn't ask where I'd been staying for the past week. Didn't ask if I was doing okay. She just dove straight into her proposal for how I could keep facilitating her comfortable lifestyle, while she continued doing whatever she wanted, with whoever she wanted. She wanted me to be her live-in silent financial partner and handyman. I looked at her sitting there. She was completely calm, convinced. She was the picture of rational, independent womanhood, negotiating a lease instead of discussing the death of our commitment. The sheer audacity of the pitch was breathtaking. I smiled, just slightly. That sounds workable, Blair. I'll need to sort out some logistics, But I think we can make that happen. She looked genuinely relieved, completely relaxed, She thought she had successfully manipulated me into accepting her perfect setup. What she had no idea about was that Carter was finalizing the divorce filing at that exact moment. That insulting proposal she just made only hardened my resolve. Monday morning, Carter filed everything. It was a masterpiece of legal warfare. The divorce petition, copies of the prenup with the infidelity clause highlighted, copies of every message, photo, and receipt from the tablet. A complete airtight package submitted to the court. Then came the move I hadn't expected, but that Carter insisted upon. H. Because Blair had been so calculating about her roommate proposal, and because Carter wanted to make a point that matched her level of contempt. H. He arranged for her to be served at her office during business hours with her entire recruitment team present. Maximum impact. H. Oh, I wasn't there, but the process server reported back to Carter later that afternoon. H. He walked into her highly corporate office around 3 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon and delivered the papers in front of her entire team and at least 2 senior partners. Shh. The server heard her gasp when she opened the heavy envelope and saw petition for dissolution of marriage. Across the top, her professional life, the thing she valued most, was publicly exposed. She called me 23 times that afternoon. I didn't answer. Every single call go to voicemail. Dante and I listened to them later while eating pizza. H. The first few were confused and panicked. The later ones were laced with rage and desperation. Then Fiona called. H. She hadn't heard about the tablet yet, but she had heard about the serving. Wyatt? She breathed. H. Her voice filled with suppressed excitement. I heard you served the papers at her office. Publicly. In front of her whole team. I'm so proud of you right now. I might cry. Want me to slash your tires now? Still no, I said. H. But I appreciate your enthusiasm. Patience, she said. The best revenge is served cold and with proper documentation. H. And you're just getting started. The door was about to ring. The performance wasn't over. It was time for the final curtain call. H. I was eating pizza with Dante, enjoying the show when the star of the show arrived for an unscripted encore. Shh. It was around 7 o'clock that Tuesday evening. The delivery guy had just left. H. And the smell of pepperoni and oregano filled Dante's small living room. We were discussing my next welding project when the doorbell began to ring insistently, a furious, rapid trill. Dante looked at me. H. Raising an eyebrow. Guess who? He opened the door. Blair stood there. She looked wrecked. H. Her usually meticulous makeup was smeared around her eyes, which were red and puffy. She was still wearing the expensive tailored dress she had probably been served in. Her entire image of professional control had been shattered. H. She pushed past Dante without an apology and spotted me sitting on the couch, completely calm. H. With a paper plate full of pizza in my hand. Her face went from devastated to pure, unadulterated fury. H. What did you just do to me? She shrieked, her voice thin with hysteria. You had me served at work, Wyatt. Shh. In front of everyone I work with. Do you understand how humiliating that was? My entire team saw it. The partner saw it. Everyone knows now. I remained perfectly still. I took another slow bite of pizza, chewed, and swallowed before speaking. Shh. The silence stretched, amplifying her distress. You told me to deal with it. I finally said, my voice low and even. So, H. I dealt with it. I filed for divorce. After 8 years, because we hit a rough patch. She cried, H, her voice rising to a painful pitch. You destroy 8 years for this? That was the line I had been waiting for. The H. I calmly reached for the tablet I had retrieved from the house. I had purposefully left it on Dante's coffee table. I I opened the messaging app, set the brightness high, and started slowly scrolling through her messages with Raphael. I didn't read them aloud. I didn't need to. I just held the tablet so she could see the screen. I scrolled through 7 months of her conversations, her own words appearing on the screen, detailing their meetings, the inside jokes, the complaints about me being checked out, the discussions about covering their tracks. Then I scrolled through the photos, letting her face drain of color as the images loaded one by one: the restaurant, the hotel lounge, the picture taken in the spare room of Idra's our house. Panic replaced the rage in her eyes. It was the naked, visceral fear of a person realizing they have been trapped by their own incompetence. She lunged for the tablet. "How dare you go through my privacy like that? That's illegal! I'll sue you for everything! I'll take the house!" I'll take your retirement. Dante moved quickly, stepping between us. He didn't touch her, but his presence was a massive, immovable wall. "It's not private," I stated flatly, still scrolling with one finger. "When it's on our shared device, signed into our shared cloud account, located in our shared house. My attorney already verified the legality. Want the statute codes? I can recite them." I showed her the dates, the timeline. She couldn't dispute any of it, because it was all her own documentation. Her own words, her own transactions from our joint account. "Wyatt, please," she whispered, her voice cracking. It meant nothing. I was confused. Raphael doesn't matter to us. It's already over anyway. We ended it weeks ago. When did it end? I asked. Silence. She just stared at me, the remnants of mascara mixing with her tears. "Let me guess," I continued. Folding my hands over the tablet screen. It ended about 5 seconds ago when you realized you might actually face consequences instead of just restructuring our arrangement. She started crying. But it was the performative, ugly crying of a spoiled person denied what they want. "We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll do anything you want. I'll change. I'll be better." "No," I said simply. The word felt clean and powerful. You told me you were done being a wife. You told me to deal with our dead bedroom in your absence. You insulted my income while spending our joint money on hotel rooms with your coworker. So, I am dealing with it. You just don't like how I'm dealing with it. That's when Tiana showed up. Bursting through the front door like a villain in a terrible made for TV movie. The I don't know if Blair called her, or if she had been lurking outside listening, but she stormed in, ready to rescue her project. She immediately targeted me with that same self-righteous, condescending tone she always used. You're really going to destroy 8 years because she made one mistake. Men cheat all the time, and women are expected to forgive them. But when a woman makes one mistake after feeling neglected, it's unforgivable. That's typical male nonsense. Dante finally lost his patience. "Tatiana," he interrupted, his voice booming. You've been divorced 3 times. All 3 times because you cheated on your husbands. You've spent 2 years telling Blair she deserved better than Wyatt. Don't pretend you weren't orchestrating this whole disaster. Tatiana's face turned bright red. I was supporting my friend's growth, and helping her realize her potential as an independent woman. You were projecting your disasters onto her, I said, rising to stand next to Dante. And now you're mad because she's facing the same consequences you did 3 times. How'd those divorces work out for you financially, by the way? Still paying off the legal fees from number 3? The argument descended fast into noise. Tatiana screaming about male privilege and the patriarchy, Blair sobbing about second chances, Dante holding the line at the doorway. Eventually, I just stood up, put the tablet down, and walked out of the apartment. I drove around for 2 hours, grabbed food from a drive-thru, and didn't return until after midnight when I knew they would both be gone. The chaos had been contained, and the legal machine was already moving. I had nothing left to say to either of them. The next several days brought the expected legal stuff. Blair's attorney contacted Carter immediately. They challenged the tablet evidence, claimed it was obtained illegally. Carter destroyed that argument within an hour. He submitted documentation proving we'd both set up that account together 4 years ago. Then they tried to invalidate the prenup. The claimed it was signed under duress, that her father pressured me into signing without proper legal help. Carter produced notarized documentation from the signing, witness statements from 3 people, time-stamped emails where I'd confirmed receiving legal advice, everything completely airtight. Her dad's attorney had been thorough when drafting it. With the chaos gone, the legal machine moved quickly. My victory was clean, but my life was still empty, until a stranger reached out. The days following the confrontation at Dante's apartment were filled with paperwork. Blair's attorney contacted Carter immediately. As expected, they challenged the tablet evidence, claiming it was obtained illegally. Carter destroyed that argument within an hour, submitting documentation proving we had both set up that shared cloud account 4 years ago. Then, they tried to invalidate the prenup, claiming it was signed under duress and that her father had pressured me. Carter produced notarized documentation from the signing, witness statements, and time-stamped emails. Blair's dad, the investment banker, had been thorough when drafting the contract, ironically ensuring his daughter's eventual ruin. What truly killed their position was the infidelity clause. Proven infidelity meant Blair kept only her premarital assets. No division of the house, no split of accumulated savings. No spousal support. Nothing accumulated during the marriage went to the cheating spouse. Her attorney advised immediate settlement after reviewing everything. She had no options. Litigation would drain more in legal fees than she could possibly recover, even in the best-case scenario. Blair tried direct contact several times over the next week. She texted that she missed me, that she had made a huge mistake, that she still loved me, and that we could work through anything. But the words felt hollow and desperate. I didn't buy it for a second. She missed the stability. She missed having someone who maintained her comfortable life while she did whatever she wanted. She didn't miss me. She missed what I provided. I forwarded every message straight to Carter for documentation. 2 weeks after filing, I got a Facebook message from someone named S. Harper Lannon. I didn't recognize the name. The account looked real, H, but we had no mutual friends. As this Wyatt, Blair's ex-husband, the message read. I almost ignored it. H, figuring it was some friend of Blair's, trying to guilt-trip me, but curiosity, mixed with the strange feeling of having nothing left to lose, won out. Yeah, who's asking? I replied. I'm Raphael's girlfriend, she wrote back. Actually, ex-girlfriend as of yesterday morning. H found old messages between him and your wife on his laptop. Knew he cheated on me before, but didn't realize she was married at the time. Sorry you went through that. He's absolute garbage. I sat back. H, the air knocked out of me. The web of betrayal was even tighter than I had thought. We exchanged several messages over the next hour. Shh. Shh. Turns out, Raphael had been cheating on Harper with Blair for months, telling Harper he was working late or attending conferences. When Blair's marriage blew up and became complicated, Raphael, the quintessential coward, H, immediately moved on to someone else and ghosted both of them. Harper had just discovered everything the day before. She ended it immediately, moved out of his place within 6 hours with help from her brother. She seemed solid from our messages. H, straightforward, direct, and blessedly free of games or drama. The H, she had this dark sense of humor about the whole disaster that I found incredibly refreshing after months of walking on eggshells with Blair. H, she made jokes about her terrible taste in men and how she should have seen the signs earlier. After about 15 messages back and forth, she texted, if you want to grab coffee sometime and talk about our terrible exes, H, I'd be interested. No pressure, though? I agreed. We met at a coffee place near downtown that Saturday afternoon. H, she was a freelance photographer, mostly commercial work. Sharp wit, cynical about relationships in a way that felt honest, not bitter. H, we laughed about how absurd it was that we were sitting there because of those two self-absorbed disasters. It was easy. It was the first time in months I felt like I was with someone who actually wanted to be there. H, one coffee became dinner the following week. Then we met for milkshakes. It wasn't rushed, but it wasn't awkward. It was the calm stability I hadn't realized I was starving for. The pain of the past was still there, but talking about it with Harper didn't sting. It felt like cleaning a wound. I was finally healing. H, the emotional contract was not about me earning my place. It was simply about showing up. The legal battle was over. H, but Blair's inability to accept consequences led to one final, pathetic act of chaos. The settlement hearing was scheduled for 5 weeks out. Carter had confirmed it would be brief, a formality. The entire thing took maybe 30 minutes. The judge reviewed the documentation, asked a few standard questions, and signed off. H. Blair showed up with her attorney, looking smaller and exhausted. She wore clothes that didn't quite fit right anymore. She signed the settlement without making eye contact once. She didn't try to argue. She just signed where her attorney indicated. The house was mine. The accumulated savings were mine, except for her premarital retirement account, which amounted to about $14,000. No spousal support whatsoever. She left with her car, her personal belongings, H, and that retirement account. 8 years dissolved in 30 minutes of paperwork. I walked out of that courthouse feeling like I had shed 100 pounds of dead weight I'd been carrying. Harper was waiting outside in the sunshine. "How'd it go?" she asked. "Clean sweep," I said. "Everything's done." "Good," she replied. "Want to get lunch and celebrate your freedom." 2 months after everything finalized, things had escalated in my personal life in ways I hadn't expected. Harper and I had been seeing each other for around 4 months at that point. It was slow, but solid and real. She kept clothes at my new place, a 2-bedroom house with a garage I actually intended to use. We had fallen into comfortable routines. She had met some of my co-workers at a plant barbecue. Meanwhile, the word I received through Fiona's extensive intelligence network was that things had gone downhill fast for Blair. Raphael had ghosted her entirely once the divorce finalized, and she became officially available. Tatiana, the architect of the disaster, also disappeared. She stopped responding to Blair's messages and stopped showing up at her place. Her interest in female empowerment and supporting friends didn't extend to actually helping them through the consequences she'd helped create. Blair was completely alone. She had to move into a small apartment across town in a neighborhood she used to mock because she couldn't afford anything better on her own. Her Instagram went from curated professional photos to occasional sad posts about growth and healing. The kind of posts that scream, "My life fell apart, and I'm pretending it's a journey." Then one Saturday morning, everything blew up. Harper was at my place making breakfast, wearing one of my old work shirts, looking comfortable in my kitchen. I was in the garage organizing tools when I heard someone's pounding on my front door. I walked around to the front. Harper had already opened the door, a spatula still in her hand. Blair stood there, looking completely unhinged. She looked past Harper and spotted me coming around the corner. Her face went from devastated to furious in half a second. "Are you serious right now?" Blair shrieked. "You're with her in your house making breakfast together." Harper stayed perfectly calm, still holding the spatula. "Hi, Blair." We actually met once at a recruiting event about 8 months ago. Raphael introduced me as his colleague. Funny how that worked out. Small world. Blair's face twisted into something ugly. "This is disgusting. You're doing this to hurt me." "Both of you are pathetic." I stepped forward. "I know exactly who she is. Someone who got lied to and cheated on by the same person you cheated with. We have that in common. Shared trauma and all that." "This is sick," Blair said, her voice getting louder. "You moved on in like 2 seconds. 8 years together, and you're just over it. You're trying to hurt me." "Actually," Harper said calmly, setting the spatula down on the small table next to the door. "Not everything is about you."
Wyatt
and I connected because we both got burned by the same 2 people. The difference is we're moving forward with our lives instead of showing up at people's houses on Saturday mornings, having meltdowns. You should try moving forward instead. Blair completely lost it. She started screaming about how I'd ruined her life, how I'd humiliated her at work, how she'd lost everything because of me. Then, Blair made a critical mistake. She shoved Harper hard in the chest. Big mistake. Harper, who I'd learned used to compete in amateur kickboxing tournaments for 3 years, didn't even blink. She just caught Blair's wrist mid-shove. Don't, Harper said simply. Her voice had this dangerous, low edge. Tried to swing at her with her other hand, committing fully to the worst decision she'd made all morning. Harper blocked it easily, then swept Blair's legs out from under her in one smooth, practiced motion. Blair hit my front porch hard, landing flat on her back with a sound that probably woke up the neighbors. Get up and leave, Harper commanded. Or I call the police, and you can explain to them why you assaulted someone on their own property. Blair scrambled up, screaming, "You bitch! How dare you!" She lunged at Harper again, which showed either impressive commitment or a complete lack of strategic thinking. Harper sidestepped easily, grabbed Blair's arm, and used her momentum to pin her face first against my garage door. We're done here, Harper said, her voice entirely devoid of panic. You're going to walk to your car, get in, and drive away, or I'm calling the cops and pressing charges for assault and trespassing. Your choice. Make it quick, because my eggs are getting cold. She let Blair go. Blair staggered back, breathing hard, mascara and tears all over her face. She looked at me, waiting for me to step in, to rescue her from the consequences of her own actions. So what? You're going to stand there while your bitch attacks me. You're such a jerk. I just shrugged. Well, you heard her. Also, you're on my property uninvited. That's trespassing. I'd leave before I decide to call the police myself. She stumbled to her car, which was parked halfway on my lawn, peeled out like she was fleeing a crime scene, and left black tire marks on the street. Harper turned. Sorry about that, she said. Though she didn't look sorry at all. Didn't want to make a scene in your neighborhood, but she shoved me first. That's legally self-defense. That was the least sorry-looking apology I've ever seen, I said. She grinned. Yeah, I'm not that sorry. Want to finish breakfast. Fiona called about an hour later. Someone recorded that whole thing and sent it to me. The just watched your girlfriend handle your ex-wife on your front porch like it was a casual Tuesday morning. Best thing I've seen in years. I'm getting this framed. A few days later, I got one final text from Blair. Just wanted you to know I'm filing charges against your girlfriend for assault. My lawyer says I have a strong case. Enjoy defending that in court. I forwarded it to Carter immediately. He responded within 10 minutes. Tell her to go ahead. I have video from 3 different neighbors who recorded the entire incident from multiple angles. Shows her starting the physical contact twice and your girlfriend defending herself proportionally. If she files, I'll countersue for harassment, trespassing, and assault. She won't win. She'll lose money she doesn't have, and what little credibility she has left. Forward this exact message to her. I sent Blair Carter's exact response, word for word. I never heard from her again after that. Blair's last word was silence. The noise was gone, and what was left was a quiet, comfortable life I'd earned. The whole ordeal felt like removing a tumor, violent, painful, but ultimately life-saving. 3 months after the final confrontation on my porch, Harper and I were still together. She gets me in ways Blair never did or tried to. She doesn't look down on blue-collar work like it's beneath her. She actually thinks welding is cool. She asks genuine questions about projects and appreciates that I can build things with my hands. Fiona loves her, which is basically the highest endorsement possible in my world. Dante approves completely, which also matters since he was there through everything. Our life is good, calm, and exactly what I needed after years of walking through a minefield disguised as a marriage. I found out through mutual connections and, naturally, Fiona's intelligence network, that Blair had to move back in with her parents after burning through her small savings in 6 months. It turns out expensive apartments and maintaining the lifestyle she thought she deserved required 2 full incomes. Not inspirational Instagram posts about growth. Tatiana is working on divorce number 4. Apparently, she found a 4th person willing to marry her despite the obvious pattern of destruction. Their disasters are cyclical, predictable, and entirely their own. Meanwhile, I'm in my garage most weekends, welding custom furniture pieces that people actually pay decent money for. Harper's photography gigs are consistent. She's building her client base, doing work she's proud of. We're planning a trip to Colorado in the fall to photograph mountains and maybe do some hiking. The best revenge, I realized, isn't the public serving, or the zeroed out bank account, or even the garage door pin. The best revenge is just building a better life than they ever expected you to have. It's living well and genuinely finding peace while they continue to spiral in their own drama. Blair wanted me to deal with our dead marriage, so I did. Just not the way she expected. That's how you deal with it.